One time I went to the dentist and they said I had 5 cavities and it's going to cost like $1,000 to fix all of them. And that was with insurance. And with the knowledge I'm about to share with you, I'm going to show you how I got rid of all those cavities. I have friends who were suffering from really bad abscesses and toothaches, and instead of getting a root canal, costing thousands of dollars, getting crowns and all this stuff, they followed the advice that I'm going to share with you in this video, and it's completely gone. Their tooth does not hurt. They don't have $1,000, $1,000,000 dental bill. It's amazing what happens when you address the root cause of a cavity. I'm going to share with you the diets they use, the supplements they use, and one other thing that you have never heard of, and it is what is causing your cavities. It's such a bizarre, different concept you've never heard of before, and I'm really excited to share it with you. So the first thing we need to look at is, what do all people with cavities have in common? And Dr. Hammer, the founder of German New Medicine, saw that everybody with a cavity, they would have a ring-shaped formation on their CT scans in the same exact location 100% of the time. And the location of this ring would change depending on which tooth was affected and whether it was the inside or the outside of the tooth that had the cavity. So a cavity is just a hole. For some reason, for this reason I'm about to share with you, a hole starts to form in the tooth. And it's either going to be on the enamel, which is the outer covering of the tooth, or it's going to be in the dentin, which is like the body or the inside of the tooth. Those are the two places cavities can form. Now, when someone gets an abscess or a toothache, usually that is going to be on the dentin, on the inside of the tooth. And in between here, that's where the pulp is. That is where all the nerves are. So when there's a cavity in the dentin, it starts to rub up against the nerve, and they start to get the toothache. But we're going to get more into that. So the first information that I was exposed to on how to treat cavities was the work of Weston A. Price. He was a dentist in the 1930s, and he traveled the world. He wanted to know what caused cavities, and he heard rumors that the people in the Amazon rainforest and the people stuck in the Swiss Alps who had no contact with the outside world, that they had a cavity rate of 0. So he traveled the world in the 1930s by steamboat, by propeller. I don't even think they had propeller planes in like the Ford Model T. And he went and he visited these people, like horse and carriage stuff. He did this when he was like 60. Amazing work that he did. And when people were in a completely isolated society where they had very little contact with the outside world, these people had a cavity rate of just about 0. And when he did find somebody who had cavities, they had healed themselves, or they were in the process, or they were very minor, and this person usually had just recently spent some time living in the modern world. He would also find these cultures that had one foot in on modern culture and the other foot still in the old world. These people had a cavity rate of probably around 5 to 10%, depending on how modernized they were. But the primitives that were living in a modernized culture, these people, like the teeth were rotting out of their heads. They had lots of cavities, and let's say that their diet was atrocious. Their diet was horrible. It wasn't like diets today. Like even a poor diet today has lots of nutrients in it compared to a modern diet back then. I mean, they had white bread, sugar, chocolate, coffee. They rarely ate any meat. Their diet was just absolutely terrible. Like their body literally lacked nutrients. They were literally suffering from nutritional deficiencies. Whereas today, like clinical nutritional deficiencies are extremely rare, just because we have access to all sorts of foods nowadays, even when someone is eating a really poor diet. So, with my experience, I've seen people follow this diet where they, Weston A. Price saw that, the most important nutrients were vitamin K2, which is found in duck fat, emu oil, egg yolks, and butter. but duck fat is going to be your most economical source. Egg yolks, vitamin A, D, E, and K, these are the fat-soluble vitamins. These are super important. The body cannot use calcium and phosphorus. Calcium and phosphorus is the main building block of bones. Protein, calcium, and phosphorus. And so you need foods that are high in this. So things like dairy. Dairy is like pretty much the best food for building back bones and tissues. But that's what he saw. These people were eating, like, if you want to rebuild a bone, I'm giving you like the simplified version of it. It's like you eat liver, bone broth, and dairy, meat. I like whey protein, stuff like that. You need like a lot of bone and a lot of teeth is made out of protein. So you just give your body the building blocks it needs. But the problem is, I've seen a lot of people eat these perfect diets and they still get cavities. And it's because cavities aren't caused by a nutritional deficiency. It's caused by a bite conflict. You can't bite back at somebody. Why does the body choose to cause a cavity on this side of the mouth versus that side of the mouth? Or on this tooth or that tooth? There's a very specific reason why this tooth and not that tooth is affected. And this is what Dr. Hammer discovered. He discovered that everybody with cavities was suffering from a bite conflict. If it was in the outer part of the tooth, then the bite conflict would be with someone who is bigger than you. So a lot of kids have cavities in their enamel. My parents, like for me, hey, my parents took my Nintendo away. I want to bite back at my parents for taking away my Nintendo. And sometimes they would take away my Nintendo for days, weeks, or months. And depending on the length and intensity of this conflict, the bigger the cavity will become. Maybe I got in a fight with one of my teachers. Depending on how much I hate this teacher and I'm annoyed with this teacher, depends on how big the cavity is going to be. And with adults usually have cavities in the dentin on the inside of their tooth because the conflict for this is not being able to bite back and the person is smaller than you. So you shouldn't bite back. Maybe it's a kid, maybe it's a dog, maybe it's your wife or your spouse. You're like, she's really getting on my nerves, but I just can't because, I'll go to jail. Something like that. And so that causes the inside of the tooth, the dentin, to start cell loss. So when we're conflict active, it's cell loss. You're not going to experience symptoms. Only in very severe cases will you experience symptoms. But when that conflict gets resolved, my parents give me back my Nintendo, me and my wife, patch things up and we're, happy-go-lucky again. Me and my teacher get along, or at the end of the school year, summertime, I don't got to deal with teachers anymore. That is when the program switches into the healing phase. So the purpose of this special program, it's helping us adapt to the stress. Oh, no, they're having a bite conflict. We need to make this tooth stronger. So conflict active, get rid of where cell loss, and then we build it back stronger and better in the healing phase. And so when we're rebuilding tissue, edema, water flows into the tooth. So there's swelling, there's inflammation, and stretching bone is stretching tooth, and especially in the dentin where it's right next to the nerve, is extremely painful. Then you have bacteria helping with the process, and there's going to be pus involved, and it is just extremely painful. But I've seen people have really bad abscesses where they've been threatened with root canals and thousands of dollars and dental work, and so when you get the abscess, you need to ask yourself, what did I just resolve? Did me and my wife, or did me and my spouse, did we just work things out? Did I work things out with my parents? Did I work things out with my boss? What is going on? Because you need to come to peace with that person, because otherwise it's just going to go back and forth between cell loss and cell proliferation. And so once you truly come to peace with this thing, and getting an abscess means that you have, or having a toothache means that you resolved it on some level, and it's going into the healing phase. It's already in the healing phase. It's rebuilding the tooth back better and stronger. But we need to stay at peace and avoid conflict relapses, because it's going to destroy the progress that we made. And there's ways that you can deal with the pain. You can take painkillers. You can take antibiotics for a short time, because the more bacteria, the more work is being done. It's going to cause more pain and more symptoms. And it's reconstructing a bone. It doesn't want you chewing and mashing things like that. That's why the pain has a purpose. Pain prevents you from using that organ that's going through a healing phase and can't take additional stress right now. There's a system, there's a rhythm to this madness. And I've seen lots of people where they go, oh, I was fighting with my parents, I was fighting with my boss, that's over now, let's work things out. I'm not going to get all worked up when they tell me to do something I don't want to do, and I'm just going to give my body the nutrients that it needs and ride it out, and everything's fine. And they do some things to mitigate the pain. They put painkillers. They use the tooth painkiller things for a couple of weeks until the healing is complete. So guys, that's how you heal a cavity. You identify your bite conflict, and you come to peace with it, and you manage the symptoms and give your body the nutrients it needs to heal. It's really that simple. So if you want my help, personally, you want my help and my coach's help. I have one coach that's been working with German New Medicine for over 10 years. Tons of experience. She's had tons of cavities throughout her life. She knows, she's healed all of them naturally. She knows what to do with this stuff. I have another coach who knows hypnosis, so he really understands how the brain works and can help guide us to control our emotions better, which control our symptoms better. And then you can also work with me too. And I had Crohn's, so I can help you deal with your digestive issues. You can get more details about that down below. But if you don't have the money right now, I understand, and that is okay. I have a free 30-day program. Just click on this video. It should be here or here. Click on that video. It comes with like a free PDF and shows you exactly everything that I did to heal my gut for good. I can eat anything and have perfectly formed stools. I gained 30 pounds after years of boring, bland diets. I can help you get better by addressing the psychological root cause. All right, guys. See you in the next video. Go down below and make a comment. What do you want me to make a video about? So, talk to you later. Bye-bye.